Hey, what up guys? Welcome to Getting Started with Spring Boot. My name is Nelson, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you exactly how you can start writing applications using Spring Boot. Now, just trust me on this, but Spring Boot, it is awesome. It is brilliant. But what it is exactly? So Spring Boot is just a framework that you can simply plug and play. So they provide you some core APIs that you don't have to do some of the configurations. For example, you don't have to set up all the security. You've got things built in already for you. For example, if you need to do some JMX stuff, they have that built in as well. So also RESTful APIs. It is super easy to actually use it once you know how to use some of the the annotations and the APIs that they provide. So what they say is, it makes it easy for you to create standalone applications that you can just run, and pretty much it is true, right? So you can create Spring applications, embedded Tomcat with embedded Tomcat, Jetty. Also, you can either pick Maven or Gradle if you want to use with Spring. There's no need for XML configuration. You can actually just use annotations, and also you have things such as metric, health checks, and externalized configurations, which is pretty cool. So what we're going to be building is this N-tier architecture, where we have several layers, whereby the first one will be the controller layer, and it will be responsible to handle HTTP requests. Now this can be a GET request, a PUT request, a POST request, and a DELETE request. So after those requests being sent to our server, then we can offload that to a service layer, whereby the service layer will be responsible to handle all the business logic for the application. So within business logic, then we need a way to interact with a data access object or layer per se, to actually save and retrieve information from a database. So you can use either MySQL, Mongo, or even some fake database. And I will even show you how easy it is for you to change your database once you have an implementation ready in place by using some cool stuff. So that's what we're going to be building. After you finish with your backend, you can actually plug any framework that you like, such as Angular or React, and create beautiful UIs. So I'll leave that up to you. But essentially, the entities that we're going to be using for this tutorial are students. So we'll have like a students database, whereby we're going to be able to get students by ID, get all students, delete students, update students, and insert students. So let's just get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to open up IntelliJ. So just let me delete this. I was just playing here around. So just let me delete this. So you can actually use any IDE that you like, either IntelliJ or Eclipse, but I prefer IntelliJ because it's I think it's the standards nowadays, and it's more robust, and the UI looks nicer, and you've got tons of cool stuff built in already into IntelliJ. So what you want to do is to create a new project. So you go to File, New, Project. Then make sure that this is a Maven project, and also make sure that you're using Java 1.8. So then you're going to click Next. So then your group ID, and because it's Maven, we need a group ID. So you can say com.yourname, and then artifact ID. That's the name of your actual project. You can call it Spring Boot, just like so. And then the project name, this is where the actual project will reside on your machine. So you can call it the same, Spring Boot, just like that. So after you're done, just click Finish, and then you'll have a project exactly the same as mine. So you'll have your parent directory, then within that you'll have source, and you'll have, just let me delete this because this is not needed for now. So you'll have source, and then you'll have POM. So within source you'll have main, resources, and I forgot that we need a Java. So you'll have main, Java, resources, and within source as well you'll have test, and this is where all of your tests will actually go. So within main, this is where our source code will go. So this is Java, you can guess Java code. And then resources, this can be like configuration files, HTML, and some other things that will be relevant for your project. And also we'll have a POM file, and this POM file is where we're going to actually get all the dependencies that we need for our project. So if I right click on my external libraries, you can see that I haven't got many jar files in my class path. So what I'm going to do now is go to Google, and then I'm going to say Spring Boot example, and then click on the first link, just like so. And then if you scroll down, build with Maven. So we're going to be using Maven. So as you can see, we have the same structure as well here. So all I need pretty much from this XML file are these tags. So we'll need a parent, dependencies. This is where everything that we need for this project. Then properties will be saying that we're going to define Java 1.8. So I'm just going to copy and paste that into IntelliJ. And as you can see, Maven is actually resolving some dependencies. And sure enough, if sorry, my bad, I was actually showing all the dependencies for Java. Yeah, but as you can see now, we've got many libraries added to our project. So before, just let me delete that quickly so you can see. So before we had nothing pretty much within external libraries, and now, my bad, sorry, I was showing you all the libraries that 1.8 provides. So if I copy and paste that, then you can see that we'll have tons of libraries that they provide. So you can see Spring Context, Spring Beans,
it's 20 hours,
web, okay, it's 20 hours, web MVC, Spring Boot, auto configure, Jackson for JSON stuff, logback. So you'll have like tons of stuff that you can play. So what we're going to do now is simply, just let me get this right there. So what we're going to do now is to create this package structure for our application. So just let me go back. Within Java, I'm going to right click and then say package. I need a new package, so I'm going to say com.yourname. So essentially this is your name, or your domain, whatever you want to say. And then within that, I'm going to create a class, and I'm going to call it main. So within main, I'm going to create another package called controller. So you see that we need a controller layer. Then within controller, I'm going to create a new package. Within your name, sorry, I'm going to create a new package called service. This is the service layer. And then within that as well, I'm going to create another package called DAO, just like so. And then within DAO, I'm going to, within my package as well, I need a entity package, just like so. So as you can see now, we have everything that we need for our project. And now let's just start coding. So let's begin by implementing the actual DAO. So the DAO is simply a class that will give us some data from any database that we want. So I'm going to call it student. DAO, just like so. And essentially we are just going to start small and then build as we go. So we're going to implement like for example, get student. So we're going to do the whole cycle and then see if it works. If it does, then we can move, for example, to find get student by ID, delete student by ID, update and delete. So let's just go step by step and you'll see how we can so at the end this will be like the same all over again, but it is good for you to see the process. So for this class we need a student because we're going to be working with students. So let me go into my entity and then Java class, then I'm going to say student, just like so. Now within student we need a private int ID, so every student will have an ID, private string name, so every student will have a name, and private string course. And yeah, that's it for now. Now what I'm going to do is simply press Control space. I need a constructor, just like so, with all of those. Then also I need a default constructor, so I'm going to say public student and then nothing there. And then I need as well I need getters and setters for this entity, so I'll have all of those, and that's it pretty much. Now I go back to my student DAO, and for this we need, so we're going to be working with some fake data for now, but then I'll show you how easily you can change to a real database if you want. So I'll say private static, and then I'll say map, where the key will be integer and then student. So that will be like the student ID and then the actual student object. So I'm going to say students, just like so. Now I'm going to initialize this in a static block. So I'm going to say students equals to new hash map, and then within that I'll have integer and students. And because I'm doing this in line, I'll just do it like so, just like so. And then I'm going to put about few students, so I'll have one with ID 1, and then I'll say new student, and then ID that'll be 1 as well, and then this will be Saeed per se, and then Saeed does computer science. Computer science. Now let me just copy that, Command D, I think it's Control D on Windows. So we have now our data, and now we're going to provide a way to actually get some information. So the first method that we're going to implement is public, and then we'll want a collection of students, and I'm going to say get students, or actually get all students, just like so. And then I'm going to return this dot students dot values, just like so. And essentially this will get the collection from this hash map and give it to us. Now let's actually implement the service. So this is where all the business logic will happen. So essentially just let me copy all of this, Command C, and then say new, and then student service. Let's call it student service, and we need pretty much almost the same thing. So let's say get all students. I'll just keep the names for now, but here we need a way to access the DAO. So we need an instance of the DAO. So I'm going to say private student DAO, control space, student DAO. So then I'm going to invoke student DAO because we have a method that will return the data from our database, and then I'm going to say get all students, just like so. Nice and easy. So now let's go to our controller. Now the controller will pretty much be almost the same. Just let me copy the method, and then I'm going to say student controller, just like so. Okay, and now we also need to get hold of the student service. So I'm going to say student service, control space, and then I'll do the same thing here, where we're just going to return the student. So we can, the name doesn't really matter, but it's always good to keep them as the same, so there's no confusion. So I'm going to say student service dot get all students. Now we have a full cycle to get all students. So we implemented the actual database, then we have the service that uses the database, and then we have the controller which offloads the requests to student service. Now let's actually start using Spring Boot in action. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, in my student DAO, I'm going to use this annotation at repository, and this is saying that this is a repository. So essentially every bean can be of type at component, but this is too generic. So we want to be specific with our beans and just let Spring know that this is actually a repository for us. So, and then what Spring will do will actually instantiate all the beans for me without me having to say new to all these all the other classes. So then I'm going to go to my service, and then I'm going to say this will be a service. So this will be a service, and to my controller I will say, guess what, this will be REST controller, not controller but REST controller. So now that we have that, we need a way to actually do some dependency injection on these beans, because at the moment if I don't have any Spring annotation, I would need to say equals to new and then that, so that way this is instantiated for us. But the reason why people use dependency injection is to actually remove the new keyword as much as possible, so that you have a decoupled system and you can pretty much make changes in a very flexible way. So I'm going to delete this, and we're going to say at auto wired. So what Spring will do is simply find a bean that of type student service, and then we'll actually instantiate and inject it for me here. So this will be available for me right from the get-go. So the same thing I need for my student DAO. So I'm going to say at auto wired, just like so. And one last thing that we need is, we said that this is a REST controller, but with HTTP requests, you need like a URL or an endpoint whereby you can say localhost the port / and then some pattern. Now we're going to define the pattern by saying at request mapping, and then we'll give it a value. So we're going to say students, just like so. And then for this method, this will be a get method. So I can say control space to see what's available for me. Now I can say method and then control space. This will be a get. So this will be a get request, and I could say value, and this would be like the actual endpoint, but I don't need to do this, because as soon as they get to students, this will be the method that will be triggered, so I don't need to say that. So that's that. Now let's actually start using the application. Now I'm going to go to main, and then I'm going to say public static void main, enter. And the way that we start this application is just saying Spring application dot run. Now we need to say that we're going to run from the main class, and then we're going to pass any arguments from the command line, if any. So one last thing that we need to do now is just say that this application, this main application, is a Spring Boot application, just like so. Just let me indent this for you or make it more visible. So as you can see now, this will be the annotation that will be used to actually make sure that Spring initializes the beans, recognizes all the annotations, configuration, and so on. Now to start the application, we just have to click on the play button and say run main. So if I run that, you'll see that we have a few things going on, but one that you really care is about this. So you'll see that we have a endpoint /student, and then this is the method. This is a get method, and you can see also that your server has started on port 8080. So if we go to any browser or your browser, just go to your browser and then say localhost 8080/students. You see that you have your information back. So student ID, you have Saeed, then he's doing computer science, and then you have Alex Yu, who does finance, and then you have Anna, who does maths. So as you can see, we have some JSON back. We didn't have to do any JSON conversion because this is done for us. Spring does it automatically by using a dependency called JAX-RS, not JAX-RS, Jackson. So as you can see here, this is the actual library which is converting our beans, our pojos, into JSON. So now that we have one feature, which is get all students, let's just get student by ID. So I'm going to go to my DAO. So I'm going to start from the DAO, and then I'm going to say public void student. So we're going to return a single student, just like so. Get student by ID, right? And then I'm going to say int ID. Why would I say void? Okay. So, and then what I'm going to do is simply say return this dot students students dot get ID. So we're going to get the actual ID. So then I'm going to copy this method and then go to my service, and this will be that. So we can say and then instead of using the DAO, we're going to use the actual DAO. As you can see here, let me just say this in here as well. As you can see here, I'm not doing any logic, to be honest, and I just want to keep it simple for this tutorial. But for example, in this case, you could actually do a check. So if you want to get a student by ID, you can actually check if the student exists. Then if it does exist, you return the actual data. If it doesn't, then you can return like a HTTP request, a code saying that the data is not available or whatever. So now let's actually go to our controller, and we need an endpoint. So I'm going to say at request mapping, and this will be will have a value, and then the value will be just like so. And then I'm going to say slash, and then I'm going to pass an ID from my URL. So this will be a method get. So this will be a get because we're getting some stuff out. And then I'm going to say public, and then student get student by ID, and then we're going to pass the ID, int ID, just like so. And then we're going to return, guess what, student service dot get student by ID, just like so, and pass the ID back. So in this scenario, we're just missing one thing, which is we need a way to actually gather the ID from the URL, and we do that by using @path variable, and then we want the actual ID. So we want the ID that you send from the URL. So to see this in action, what we're going to do is simply run that, and you can see that we have another endpoint. So you see this one here, and if I go back to my browser and say /1, you can see that we have Saeed. So if I want to get Alex, which is number 2, and then we have number 3, and as you can see, we're just getting a single data back. Now to remove something from our database is very simple. What we're going to do is simply say, let's actually start from here now, @request mapping, and then this pretty much will be the same. So just let me copy that, but instead this will be a delete. So we're going to delete something from a database. Now I'm going to say public void delete student by ID, and then I'll pass the same thing at path variable, and then we need ID, and the type of the ID will be int ID, and then we're just going to say student service dot remove student by ID, and then we'll pass the ID. So now if I press Alt Enter, I need to create this method. Fair enough. What I'm going to do is say this dot student DAO dot remove student by ID, and then I want to pass the ID. And as you can see, we could check as well if there is a student with ID that we pass, and then if there is, we can perform this action, else we can do something else. So I'm just keeping it dead simple for you guys to understand. So now I'm going to press Alt Enter, create method, and as you can see, we just walked our way back. So now what I'm going to do is simply say get this dot students dot remove, and then I'm going to pass the key, just like so. And if I run this now, for us to actually perform deletes, we need a HTTP client. So if you go to Chrome and then type I think it's REST client. So REST client, you'll have like many of them, but the one I actually like is this one here, Postman. You can also use advanced REST client. I've used it before and it's really nice. So just click on it, and I'm going to launch the app. Okay, Postman. Just let me open up Postman. Okay, fair enough. So just let me go to student to the URL, and then if I say a get, so let's say this is a get request, and send. As you can see, we have Alex U, and now let's say that we want to delete Alex U, or actually let me get Anna. So let's say I want to delete Anna. All I need to do is from a get, I need to say this is a delete. Now if I say send, Okay, we have no response back because you know, we return void. But we could have said like return an HTTP 200 code, for example. But let's just keep it simple. Now let me go to get, and then let's say get all. As you can see, Anna is not on the database anymore. So let's actually delete Alex as well. Alex is number 2. This will be a delete, and let's send that. And then let's get all students, and oops, sorry, it's not a delete, it is a get. And then as you can see, only Saeed, it is in our database. Now let's implement, let's say that this will be a put request. So again, let's start from the back. So this will be public. So this will be a let's actually return nothing for now. Let's say public void, and then let's say we're going to update a student. Update student by ID. Oops, just like so. Int ID, or actually student. So we need to say student, just like so. And what we're going to do is simply say we're going to get student. So, and then student, and then I'll say equals to students dot get, and then student dot get ID, just like so. So student already is defined. Okay, let's say S, let's call it S for now. Now what I'm going to do is s dot set course, and then I'm going to say student dot get course, and then s dot set name. You know, let's say that the ID, you can't really change the ID. And then I'm going to say student dot get name. Let's say that you want to change the name of a student, just like so. And then we want to put it back into the database. So we're going to say students dot put, and then the ID will be student dot get ID, and then we're going to put the student, just like so. So this will update, and let's actually implement, actually no, let's just do this one for now. Now let's go to our service, and then I'm going to copy that and say update student by ID, like so. Actually, it's not even update student by ID, it's just update student. Let me remove that from here as well. Update student, just like so. And now all I need to do is say student DAO, or this, if you want to be more specific, student DAO dot update student by ID, and you pass the student, just like so. And then for our controller, we need a way to actually handle this. So I'm going to say just like that. The value will be nothing there, and the method will be a put. So we're going to put something to the database, and I'm going to pass the actual student. So I'm going to pass a student, just like so. And then here I'm going to say update student, and then I'm going to pass student, just like so. So now let's actually test this and see if it works. So let's say that we want to test this. Where is postman? Right here. So let's say put, and then the body will be raw. This will be like a JSON. Let me copy this guy here. So we're going to update side. First foremost, let's actually test that we have, okay, we have 3 people in the database. Now let's actually do a put request. So I need to say, okay, in the body I'm going to send some JSON. So I'm going to send that JSON back, and let's change this is like, let's put his full name. Say Didine, and he did maths as well. Let's say he did maths. He changed his mind. So now what we're going to do is say send. So if I say send, okay, oops, no pointer exception. Now the reason why we may have a null pointer exception is because we need to read the actual body that we sent. So to do that, we need to say at request body. So that will actually be inside. So that will be a student. So we're going to read the request body sent from this request, and sure enough, it should work. Let me just go back. Okay, so many of them open. Just let me go back. Let's do a get. Okay, it is working. Now let's do a put send, and okay, we have unsupported media type. So what we need to do now is tell Spring that okay, we need to tell Spring that this guy here will actually accept a JSON. So we're going to control space and then consumes. So we're going to consume a media type, just like so, dot application dot JSON value. So now if I refresh, it should work definitely. I haven't prepared this in hand, but I'm quite sure this will work. So if I do send, oh my god, we have, okay, just let me go back. So this is a put, consumes application.json. That's the ID, params. Okay, message. Okay, I'm not. Oh, okay, I know why. So I think the reason is because we are sending plain text instead of JSON, and we specifically said that we want a JSON object. So now if I say send, surely enough, now it worked. So if I actually didn't work because it did work because I changed the data. Now if I say get student and then send, you will see that his name has changed. Now if I repeat this again, so let me go to the body, let's say now let's change his name completely. Let's call it Nelson, and Nelson did photography, just like that. And then I'll say send, and if I do a get request, if I send the request, sure enough we have Nelson in the database. Now we need to implement, what else we have to implement, what else left? So now we need to actually insert a new student into a database, and that's very simple and the same as this delete. So we're going to say insert student, student, and exactly this will be a post, and we're going to consume JSON as well, and the request body will be a student that will be inserting, and then here I'm just going to say insert student, just like so. Let me implement this method. Well, we're going to create this. Let's say void for now, and then I'm going to invoke my student DAO dot insert student to DB, just like so, and I will pass student. And we don't have this method at the moment. Just let me press Alt Enter, create this method, and then what we're going to do is say this dot students dot put, and then I'm going to say student dot get ID, and then I'm going to put student, just like so. And I think we're done, to be honest. Let me go to my service. We can use this to be more specific, but because we just have one, you know, there's no misconfusion. I mean, we could leave it without this, but now let's actually, you know, test all of this. So let's say, let's rerun this. As you can see, we now have, you know, all the methods needed for this project. And if I say okay, so let's do a get just to make sure that it is working. Surely enough, let me copy this guy here, and then instead of a put, I'll be triggering a post, and then this will be like, let's say we have student ID 33, and this guy is Mo Farah. I think it's like that you spell it, Mo Farah, and Mo Farah did sports. Now if I say send, fair enough, we don't have any response, but we could have added, you know, 200 code. But if I say now post, if I trigger a get, now we can see Mo Farah, it is indeed in our database. Now let's just trigger some more posts. So we have 33, we have 333. Let's call him Michael, and Michael did pure science, just like that. Let me post, and then let's have Cheryl, who did let's say she did English, and then send. And now let's actually get all the students. So you can see that we have, you know, lots of students already in the database. Let's say I want to delete student ID 44. That has to be a delete. Now send, that's fine. If I get all the students, that has to be a get, and you can see not there anymore. And let's just do one more. Let's just do a put, and let's change what was it that we said? So let's change Mo Farah, so 33. Actually, let me copy this. So that'll be a put. The body will be Mo Farah, and let's say that Mo Farah changed his mind and he wants to do computer science as well. Computer science, and then let's send a request. This is a put, send. Fair enough. Let's do a get, and surely enough, Mo Farah did computer science. So as you can see, like we have the whole application working, and pretty much we managed to do, you know, the whole end-tier architecture, where we had the controller layer where we did some HTTP requests, then we had the service layer where we didn't actually have too much of business logic, but that depends, you know, I just want to be quick for this tutorial. And also we had a data access, and this actually was responsible from getting data. So now we simply got data from you know, we just got fake data. But let's say that we had MySQL or Mongo database that we want to get data from. So the way that you would do that is, so going back to the DAO class, so what we need to do now is, if you go to refactor, then go to, I think is extract, okay, yeah, extract, and then interface. So we are going to extract all of these methods to an interface, just like so. Okay, let's actually say this will be our implementation. Let's refactor this to be our implementation. So this will be impl for implementation. Let's say fake student DAO implement. Actually, yeah, let's say implementation for implementation, impl for implementation. Now I'm going to refactor all of that, say okay, and now I'm going to go to the class and then go to refactor and simply say, where was it again, extract, and then interface. Now I'm going to select all of these. So this is my public interface. Now I'm going to refactor, and I'm going to call it DAO. So this will be like the student DAO, and refactor. Interface has been successfully created, blah blah blah, and replace them with usage. Do you want to proceed? Say yes. So I want to select all, okay, and then do refactor. So as you can see now, we completely changed the way that all the other classes use this interface. So here, instead of using the fake data, we're just using a simple interface. And the way that we're going to, you know, make changes on this is, like, first let me actually show you the DAO. And as you can see, it's just an interface. Now, for example, let's say that I have a MongoDB database. Now, if I create a new class, so let's say Mongo student DAO impl. I mean, you don't have to say impl, but you know, I mean, let's just leave it. And then that implements what? Student DAO, like so. Now I need to implement all the methods. So I mean, here you would, you know, make a connection, Mongo connection. I'm just faking this, to be honest. You know, you wouldn't say it's not like this, but essentially you'd have a connection, and then once you have the connection, then you'd have like your template class, where you can say things such as insert, delete, you know, all the methods that you would want to do. And essentially then all you need to do is, if you go to the service, or actually to the fake data. So now we have like a conflict between all of these classes, because you know, if we go to the service uses a student DAO, and you know, we have more than 2 student DAO. So we have 2 classes that implement student DAO. So Spring wouldn't know, you know, out of the box, you know, which DAO to actually inject. So this is when we use @ qualifier. So we are going to use add qualifier, and then we're going to say fake data. Then let's go to our fake data implementation, and then at the top of the class I'm going to say add qualifier, and then I'm going to say fake data. Now if I go to Mongo, I can say that this is at repository, and the qualifier will be Mongo data, right? So now if I want to use, let's say I want to use in my service, I want to use Mongo data, I'll just say Mongo data, and then my implementation changes completely. So if you had a MySQL database, you could just say MySQL, and then that would work perfectly fine. So just to prove a point, let's say that we are going to implement this method, so Mongo data. So if I go to Mongo implementation, let's just implement this guy here, and I'm going to return, let's say, new array list, or array list, and let's say we have just one student there at the moment, just like so. And then this is add, so I'm gonna add a new student, and that will be one, actually, yeah, one, and then the name will be, I don't know, Mario, and Mario did nothing. It didn't do nothing at university. Let's just pretend now, nothing. So I mean, I don't have to do anything else, pretty much. Just let me prove a point to you guys. So if I open up my, if I restart, so as you can see, Spring will actually, run all of that. And if I go back and then say get all students, check this out. Ta-da! So this is coming from a Mongo database right now, and not a fake database. So as you can see, it's really, really powerful, and it's super cool, super nice. And essentially, I mean, every Java developer, must know how to use one of these, because it saves you a lot of time. So if you have like an idea, and you quickly want to have a prototype up and running within 2 to 3 hours, you can have Spring Boot and essentially have a prototype that you can show to someone that you're interested in. So there we go. So one last thing now that we are going to do. So let's say that you want to send this to someone so that they can actually test it. So you've developed this nice application and you want to send to your friends or your boss, and you want them to test this application. So how would you do that? So if you go to this tab, so Maven project, and then click on that, and then you have life cycle. And now what we're going to do is simply say install. So we're going to install this project. So just click on that, and that will install the project. So you can see that the build was success. Now if I open up Target, and I have this jar file, so I'm going to open it up. For this to work, you need to make sure that you have Java in your I think is in Windows, I think is system variables. So I think you have to have that. Now let's say that I copy this guy onto the desktop, and I name it, let's say my app. Let's say I name it app, for example. So if I open terminal, you say pwd. So I think is, let's just drag this here. So let's cd to users desktop jar, just like so. So if you want to run this, for example, just from this jar file, all you would do is say java and then jar and then app.jar, just like so. And then, oh, actually I do have Java on my class path, on my system variables. Wow, I didn't even know that. There we go. So now, as you can see, IntelliJ is not even running. And if I go to, let's now open up Safari. Okay, Safari doesn't want to open. Let's open up Chrome. Let's go back to Chrome. So, and now I say students, and because I was using Mongo, check this out. We have data coming back for this database. So I know pretty much this is all I wanted to show you guys today. I hope that you found this useful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you also subscribe to my channel, that will help me a lot in making up these videos for you guys, because I love teaching. And if you want me to teach anything that you want, for example, I didn't cover security, I didn't cover database integration, I didn't cover how to use property files, you can just leave a comment below and I will make a video for sure covering those topics. So without further ado, thanks for watching my video and don't forget to subscribe. See ya.